Studios was a British production studio in South Wimbledon, London. Opened in 1930, Merton Park produced a number of feature films, and for a time it was even home to Radio Luxembourg. Unlike many other studios, it remained open during the Second World War, producing films for the Ministry of Information. This is where the Canadian Army newsreels were sent for post-production.
Visitors to Army headquarters were members of a British parliamentary party. They included Lord Marchwood and Air Commodore Lord Stansgate from the House of Lords, and Sir Percy Hardy and Mr. R.C. Morrison representing the House of Commons. The occasion was an informal visit to General MacNaughton before they left for Canada. The Canadian trip is being held under the auspices of the Empire Parliamentary Association, which arranges for British and Dominion statesmen to see for themselves how things are done in other parts of the British Commonwealth. And as they left for Ottawa, they knew at first hand of the readiness and eagerness for battle of Canada's fighting men. To historic Edinburgh Castle on its high rock, go each month to study under veteran Pipe Major Ross 3 or 4 Canadian pipers. They see the sights like Mons Meg, the old cannon, and hear stories of the old pipes and souvenirs that hang on the walls in the school itself.
This old set of pipes at one time belonged to a late Earl of Burley, and he presented them to the Scots Guards. I carried them all the way to the Boer War. Eventually they were handed over to me.
They brush up on their fingering with the practice chanters, bagpipes without bags or drones. Each man plays his own music in his own time. It's every man for himself. But make no mistake, this is no matter for jest by mere Sassenach. Canadian and Scottish pipers studying the classic music of the pipes together within the hallowed walls of Edinburgh Castle cement a proud brotherhood. The tune they play on the battlements close to Scotland's shrine and memorial who are fallen in the last war will be heard again as they play their Canadian and Scottish comrades into victorious action and into immortal history in the battles to come.
Shop of the Printing and Stationery Detachment, RCASC, the Canadian Army has a plant that would do credit to a city the size of Montreal or Toronto. The ingenious Linotype, with its hungry melting pot and steadily growing galley of solid lines of ready cast type, is of course the most familiar machine in the big Army composing room. After being set, the type is proved so that its accuracy may be checked and compared with the original specifications. Then it is locked up in steel frames ready for the press, while the paper needed for that particular job is cut to the right size in the power-driven guillotine. Type, locked in a steel frame or form, is placed in the press, a vertical press in this case. The paper goes round and round and comes out here. It's an Army job throughout, for paper is as much an essential of war as food. Unless there was paper on which an order for food could be written, or airmail forms available on which to write home, then a lot of Army business just wouldn't get done. So these Canadian craftsmen in khaki are doing highly specialized and important jobs in this little-known branch of the Army. Jobs which are essential to smooth administration and efficiency. 1st Infantry Brigade under Brigadier H.D. Graham, an inspection of the 1st Division of the Canadian Army was begun. The inspecting officer was Major General Guy Simmons, its new GOC, and youngest Major General in the Canadian Army. He called on the 2nd Field Regiment, Royal Canadian Artillery. Then, accompanied by the Brigadier and Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Crowe, he inspected the senior infantry unit of Canada's peacetime permanent force, the Royal Canadian Regiment. Next, Lieutenant Colonel D.A. Sutcliffe met him at the Hastings and Prince Edward Regiment. The GOC was greeted by Lieutenant Colonel I.S. Johnston, where the 48th Highlanders were drawn up for inspection. A special detachment of Bud troops trained for special work were next inspected. And the GOC's visit to the 1st Brigade ended with a march past by the RCRs. Lieutenant Colonel B.M. Hoffmeister of the Seaforth, with Brigadier C. Vokes, took the GOC about the lines of Canada's Seaforths. He paid particular attention to a platoon of old originals who had come overseas with the unit in 1939. After that, Lieutenant Colonel J.C. Jefferson and the Brigadier showed the Edmontons to the General. And Lieutenant Colonel R.A. Lindsay led the march past of the famous Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry. At the 3rd Brigade, the 1st Field Regiment was presented by Lieutenant Colonel J.E. Lane, accompanied by Brigadier M.H.S. Penhale. At the Carleton Yorks, the GOC met Lieutenant Colonel F.D. Tweedy and Brigade Major F.C. Pangman. And then he saw another famous Maritime Province Regiment, the West Nova Scotians. In his tour of this veteran division, Major generally trained and equipped a group of fighting men as were ever produced by Canada.